one start with DJing or production also?
So I've got a bunch of points that I've got down here so I can be like crystal clear and well explained. So first thing I would say is start by collecting some music, okay? Because this whole desire of wanting to become an artist starts with wanting to share music, wanting to share things that make you feel something with other people so that they feel something. So I would say first start by figuring out what is the kind of music you want to listen to, what is the kind of music you want to make or play, but start collecting. By collecting, I don't mean just downloading like random music. By downloading music, getting into the history of it. Where does this music come from? Okay, this is the artist that made it. Who inspires this artist? Who further inspires them? Where did this all begin from? That would be my step number one. Then the second thing, before you even get technical or start learning technical things, build your taste. Because as an artist, the most fundamental trait that you can have is your taste. Your taste is what speaks of what comes out of you, what you acknowledge is good, what you acknowledge is bad. So you really need to consciously get into a zone where you basically start developing your taste. And the first way to do that is to acknowledge that your taste may not be good. Right? So until you do that, you can't get further. Then the third thing is do a little bit of a case study on some of your favorite artists, right? Go to your favorite artist page, social media, wherever, see how they started. Everybody has a growth curve, you know, nobody starts off becoming popular overnight. They slowly start to grow, or there is something that made them successful, or there's a certain song that they had a hit, or a certain performance that people are after. So do a little case study on some of your favorite artists, right? And the next thing is go out to gigs, because if you want to be a DJ or a producer, you want to understand what it is like to actually be there at these gigs, what kind of goes on there, how people respond to the music. And you also meet a lot of people and network, which I would say is really important. And the next thing is you want to understand the ecosystem. Now, your ecosystem consists of labels, consists of artist managers, consists of venues, promoters. So you want to understand how all these guys work and who those people are, right? And then maybe is a good time for you to start signing up for a class. You want to look for a DJ school or a music producer school or an online course. You know, this is a little bit of homework that you can do before you get started, before you spend money, because none of this is going to cost you anything. You could just go out there, study all of these things that I told you, and then would be your next step to get into a school. Now, let's say once you've acquired the skills and knowledge by going to a school, you want to start practicing that every day. You want to make sure that you're practicing things, you're improving every day, you're sort of evolving with your skills. Then comes the question of all these other things like writing your bio, having your press shot, opening your social media pages. Most often people do this the reverse way. They open a social media page, they do press shots, they do bio, they spend money, but you don't have any content or anything to put out there, right? So this is the direction that I would recommend going in if you're a beginner. And maybe, you could also, as a DJ, you could do a few other things. You could even like download like a mobile app. There are plenty of apps that let you sort of start exploring DJing or music production on the mobile. One of them is Cross DJ or DJ2, DJ Studio. Just go up to Google and type like DJing apps for Android or iPhone. You'll find plenty of them that are free. You could explore that. Also, here's another thing. Read a lot of blogs. Go to YouTube, watch tutorials. You want to read news about the electronic music industry very often. Like what is happening right now, who's the popular artist, if there are some little bits about, you know, artists. You want to know all these important things. Now, if you're a producer, you could also alternately download a lot of free software like Ableton Live is free for 90 days right now. There are plenty of other softwares, Fruity Loops, GarageBand, all of which you can use to make music by yourself, right? You could go on YouTube, you could like watch a few tutorials on basic music theory, you could acquire a few simple skills. There are plenty of ways that you could get started without having to spend a single rupee. And if you have a laptop and a pair of headphones, that's more than everything that you need.
Awesome. Moving on, our next thing on the agenda is opportunities for DJs and producers. So I think we can discuss the career opportunities and what are the opportunities for the DJs and producers in the industry.
Right. I mean, to start off with, gone are the days where you can just survive as a DJ. There was a point of time in the 90s where if you were just a DJ, you could still book gigs, you could still play around. But right now, we've come to a stage where you have to produce music. You have to be an artist where you are putting out music that other DJs are playing or other people are sort of coming to your shows because of that, right? So that would be the first step for you to sort of, find an opportunity as a DJ. You can always take the path of maybe even being a resident DJ, for example. That's someone who works with a venue on a regular basis. You get paid a monthly salary. You could probably manage the place and you play 5 days a week, 6 days a week, etc. So that's one. The second is you could be like a freelance or a mobile DJ, which means you play for private parties, you play for weddings, you play for all of this, because this is actually a very underlooked market or an overlooked market in India. There are plenty of DJs that are not in the electronic music scene that make tons of money, playing for weddings, destination weddings, all of that. So there is that path as well. You could also, as a DJ, become a venue programmer, which means as a DJ, you're bringing other artists to your venue where you make some money on, a retainer for sort of, bringing artists, etc. And that's a domain that will also help you expand your horizons, by bringing in other guest artists, curating your own night, etc. You could also, monetize from your gigs, because by making music, you're not going to earn anything. Your music sales aren't going to give you huge numbers, especially in the underground music scene. Maybe if you're making really popular music or stuff like that. Even then, the major chunk of most artists' income come from shows. So you basically make music, you put that music out, that earns you fans who want to come see you perform live, and you make money over there. So these are some of the career options that you have in the artistic domain. Now, if you have maybe some other extra skills, like maybe let's say you're a good writer, you could become a music journalist, right? Maybe you know a little bit of software programming, or you've done your software engineering or IT. You could get into the domain of developing plugins or developing software, mobile apps, etc. As a producer, there are plenty more career options that open up. You could be like a background score guy. You could be like a mixing or a mastering engineer. You could be a ghost producer, that is somebody who makes music for other people that can't do it themselves. You could be like a lot of things in the electronic music scene. You could be an educator. You could have your own YouTube channel where you put out tutorials. In fact, if you go on YouTube, you'll find that there are thousands and thousands of people across the world, right from their bedrooms. They make tutorials. They put up all these videos for people to watch and monetize of it. So there's plenty that you can actually do in the music scene. Alternately, you could also work in some capacity in a nightlife industry, right? Maybe there's a booking agency and you're working there as an intern, or there's a school like ours, and you're working as a faculty or as a staff member. So these are some of the things that you can get into in electronic music specifically as a career.
Sweet. So you have actually laid out a zillion opportunities actually, because we just have to understand that where there's a will, number one, there are 100 ways. I think this has become my favorite quote lately. So the nightlife industry or the music industry, it's not just built by DJs or artists. There are people managing the artists, there are people writing for the artists, there are people curating the events, there are people there are people who are teaching also those artists, or they must have been educated. So there are a lot of jobs around an artist as well. So if you're good, you can always just pick up one another thing that you're good at, or you can just explore another side of yourself. And you can always do two jobs in the same industry to support one another. How does one get to know the music ecosystem, and why is it important to know this ecosystem?
Right. So most of us obviously enter something new by finding the most popular people first, right? Everybody knows the tip of the iceberg, like the number one artist or whatever. So you first want to start off by learning to differentiate between talent and fame. They're two separate things altogether. Because most often when we get into an industry, you always find the people who are famous first. So the famous may not necessarily be talented, and so once you begin, Sorry, I think there was a lag. So once you begin and differentiate between talent and fame, it's super important for you to start going beyond fame and start discovering the things that lie beneath the tip of the iceberg. Now, in your ecosystem, like I mentioned, you have things like labels, promoters, venues, artist managers, and so many of these other people and nightlife brands, etc. Right? So, if you don't know about them, then you probably are confused about who supports my kind of music, who are the DJs that are pushing this forward, right? So you want to understand these things, which is where understanding the ecosystem is very important. Now, up until this time, you spent time honing your skills, you've sort of understood how things work with the music, all of that. Now it's time for you to start understanding the business, because both creativity and the business side, they're equally important in this industry. So read news that is relevant about the music industry. Like maybe you might have seen about a festival that is coming up and they're probably auditioning DJs, or there is a DJ doing a remix contest where the winner gets a release on his label. So these are things very important that you can find out from your ecosystem. And these are the things that have launched careers for so many people as well. So I would say these are the things that you have to pay attention to, especially start with your city, what's going on in your city, then move into your country before you go outside of your borders or any of that. Now, like I said, understanding the business is very important, how the industry works. One side is understanding the music, but you want to know, what kind of payments DJs get, what kind of money is spent on events, how is an event produced, who does sound, who does lights. When you understand all these various aspects, it gives you a better leverage to be able to go and pitch to someone or to be able to talk to someone, all of that, right? So start by following all your favorite artists that you know from the city, see what they're doing, your favorite labels, venues, etc. So this is why I really emphasize that you must know your ecosystem.
Okay, awesome. So, as a DJ, as a producer, someone who wants to take this up professionally and someone who wants to make a name for themselves, number one, like you have to begin with knowing what other DJs are there in the city, what other venues might book you, and what sort of people will like your music. So it's basically you're knowing the ecosystem, and then you're basically trying to fit in that ecosystem. So if you have to fit in, you have to know thoroughly what you're trying to fit in, basically. So certainly, like, knowing the ecosystem holds a lot of great importance. And as a DJ myself, I think I've been exploring this side professionally for the last 1.5 years, more than 1.5 years now. And I've literally traveled across various cities, and I've been just so blessed that I'm getting to know the ecosystem at a very nice level. That I get to know how the events are curated, what works for a good gig, what makes a gig go bad, and what sort of crowd comes in, how does the crowd respond to the music, what sort of slots work for a DJ. You always have to, if you're a beginner, you must know that you will have to start from the early slots.
Right.
So I'm sure anybody who is in it for real might be knowing this already, that you have to start with the early slots. You don't really get a later slot in the very beginning. So basically you have to keep a lot of patience. You have to hustle very hard. Your sleep cycle goes for a toss.
Yep.
And you just have to work very hard if you're wanting to become an artist. What is the ideal investment? That's it. What is the ideal investment? Because a lot of people don't know what to invest and where to invest.
Right.
And,
So I would say your first investment is not money. It's dedication towards what you want to do.
Yeah.
It's patience. And practice. These are the three things that you want to dedicate yourself to. Patience, practice, and hard work. Then comes the money. Now, you can start under 20,000 rupees as a DJ. You can get starter kits from various brands. There's Spiny, there is Hercules DJ, there's Newmark. All of them sell beginner kits, which are good enough for you to practice at home. Some of them are quite decent to even actually take out to a gig and play your first few gigs with. So you don't need to get in that pressure that, oh God, I need expensive equipment or any of that. So if you're looking at one single thing that you should start with, I would advise a good listening system. It could be a headphone or a pair of studio monitors, somewhere where you can actually hear the music properly and hear all the details. Because that's what is going to be able to make you hear what is within that music on a much deeper level.
Right.
Right? Then as a producer, like I said, you can download Ableton for free for the next 90 days. There are plenty of other free softwares online. There's a website called Audio Tool where you can go and make music just within your browser. You don't even need to download anything. You don't need a fancy computer, nothing. If you don't have a computer, that would be your first investment. Obviously, a small laptop or a simple desktop also is good enough. So a producer's setup would usually cost under 30,000 rupees, which is a MIDI keyboard. It's a keyboard with which you can access virtual instruments within the computer. Audio interface, that is a sound card which will provide a high quality output of sound to connect your speakers. And then, like I said, a pair of speakers or headphones. These are the ideal things. In fact, we have an article on our blog, which you can go and read on blog.beatworx.in about a setup that you can buy under 30,000 rupees. We have plenty of other articles as well that you may find interesting. So I definitely urge you to go check it out. But these are the basic things that an artist would start to invest in. I would also recommend to not buy gear that is complicated in the beginning. A very important recommendation, because when you buy something that's beyond the basics, you're going to spend the rest of the year figuring it out or figuring out how it works than going ahead with your skills, right? Buying new stuff can actually be a big hindrance. In fact, the best people make do with the same things that they've been using for years together. If you read some interviews of artists, if you check out, I mean, even me, for example, I've been using the same setup that I used for the last 10 years. Because unless there's a necessity for you to change, you don't really have to change what you do, right? Then keep your savings to a bare minimum until you start earning from your profession. Don't take money that your parents have given you, or don't take precious money that you may have saved up and just blow this. Like, I've seen a lot of people who come to us and say they want to start a career in music. I have X amount of money. I want to make a studio first. Why? You don't know a single.
I think this is Ashwin. I just lost you.
Okay, sorry guys, small
No
dropout
worries.
there. I am back. Okay, so we were talking about how to start with your ideal investment. To summarize that, you can start under 20,000 rupees with a starter kit for DJs. You can start under 30,000 rupees as a producer with speakers, studio monitor, and whatever, MIDI keyboard. I would recommend that you don't buy gear that's complicated in the beginning, because you'll spend a lot of time trying to understand it and going further. Then I would say that keep your spendings to bare minimum in the beginning. Unless your profession is paying for it, don't go out there and just spend money on an impulse. Then I highly recommend spending money on learning, on buying music. These are other things that you could actually put your money onto. Don't even spend money on doing a photo shoot or a bio or any of that. Before you have some substance to actually put out, these are not things that are valid. I mean, there will be people who may want to con you, who will tell you that, dude, you need to do like a really good photo shoot. I'll do it for just 20,000 rupees. Don't fall for any of that. Just focus on your music and your basic essentials first.
Fair enough. So, coming from the expert, BYB expert now.
Okay, here I am, back again.
Hi again. Yes. Okay, so wrapping up with our last, the subject on the agenda before we take up the questions. The quiz, the much awaited quiz. All the musicians tuning in have asked us when we are going to be conducting the quiz. So I'm really excited about that. Coming back to the last segment on our agenda today, the recommended strategy. What is the recommended strategy? There was this case who messaged us that the person is not able to decide whether to go for a corporate job or to produce music because he wants to produce music. And since we know that an alumni at Beatworx, Shreyas, was had taken up this course with Beatworx, and he quit his corporate job when he saw your N2 and the other crew members N2, and when he saw the potential with Beatworx. So he quit his corporate job, and he followed his heart, and he gave in with the crew, and he's been with you guys ever since. And from what I know, he's one of the most, I mean, all of you are amazingly hardworking, but he is just
Always working.
He's always working. Oh my God, he's always working. And I'm so impressed with him, with how he conducts himself in terms of work, and how he's so punctual. So I think, yes, there are others who are looking for this guidance and for this inspiration, and how can they strategize this whole interest, and how can they plan for themselves how to move forward.
Okay, so probably the most important question of our session, right? So moving on from what I last said, you have these various stages as an artist. Recognize which stage you're at, right? And then moving on to a strategy. Number one, you could possibly try and get a job in a nightlife industry, like I suggested earlier, because that will keep you close to your interests. Because if you need a job to survive, you need some job to survive, find a daytime job that is in the nightlife sector. You could work as an intern somewhere, you could work as a programmer, you could work in any capacity. That is something that can help you where you feel like your job is not really a work. Otherwise, if you have another job, you may not get your offs on those days that you have a gig to play, right? For example, I know plenty of people still who are in corporate jobs. When we call them for a gig, they have to sort of take a holiday, take a off from work. So try to find a job in the nightlife industry would be one strategy, right? Second, save money for the essential things that you need for your craft in terms of learning, in terms of gear. Make a proper financial plan. In fact, we have an article on our Instagram on Beatworx, financial advice for artists. Go check it out. We have a few strategies on how you can sort of do this, but start saving some money as an investment for your future. Right? Find your sound. This is super important. This is not going to happen overnight. This is not going to happen by just picking the first thing that came on your plate. Explore everything that is there around you. You want to be a jack of all trades first when you start, before you become a specialist in something. Right? Only after you've sort of experienced everything, you can identify when you hear something, what is this influenced by? What is the culture behind this, etc. Right? Then make a small roadmap for yourself, right? Like, let's say you're starting today. Make a roadmap and say, in the next 6 months, I'm going to play my first gig. In the next 6 months, I'm going to play probably my first gig outside of the city, right? Be realistic. Then maybe make a roadmap saying, in the next 6 months, I will try to make my first track. So if you have like a roadmap in front of you, it really helps you. Now, here's the difference. When you get into a profession like medicine, you have exams, you have things that assess you every now and then. So when you do this, you have to assess yourself. You're an enterprise by yourself. You have to completely assess yourself. So this is one of the things that you do. Make a roadmap. Then start putting out content regularly. Once you've established yourself, few people know about you. Put out content regularly in terms of music, in terms of supporting other artists. You could put up charts from other artists that you like, bits of music that you're working on. Let your audience in on how you think, on your process, your other interests, all of this, right? Now you have to start thinking of yourself as a brand. You're a brand as an artist, right? So you want to see what sets your brand apart. What are the strengths that you have? What are your weaknesses? Address your weaknesses, get better with it, and strengthen your strengths and use that to your advantage. Maybe you may have a certain skill and another friend has a certain skill that you want. Collaborate, work together. This is a very good way of moving forward, right? Instead of being stuck with a certain skill that you don't have, right? Collaborate with other people. Establish a trustworthy mentor. This is very important. Have one person as a mentor or a few people that you really trust, that you can send your work to and get honest feedback. guys, as friends, the most important thing that you can do to your artists is actually give them honest feedback, right? Most often, people don't give critical feedback. Artists come and say, listen, trash me out with my work. Like, just be completely critical. On the other hand, you have people saying, hey, bro, that's nice work, man. That's cool shit. It's all good. That's not what you need. You need somebody who will tear you apart and really give you insight, right? Another thing that you could do essentially is learn other skills, like learn how to do basic video editing, learn how to go live by yourself. Like right now with this pandemic, I have one DJ calling me at least every day saying, dude, how do I go live? How do I connect? Everything is available on the internet. You don't really need much today. So develop other skills, right? Like maybe some graphic design, all of this. Another advice would be learn about the financial system. A lot of artists have no idea how much money they're losing because they don't understand taxes. They don't understand how a basic TDS system works. Like, when your tax is deducted at source, which can be claimed back later. So understand the financial industry, how this basically works. Because like I said again, you're a business, you're an enterprise, you're a one-person army doing everything. If you thought music was just about being popular and being cool, I'm sorry, you're totally mistaken. You're in for a roller coaster of a ride.